Ladies and gentlemen, the story of Chris Chan is one that always goes in a different direction than where you expect it to. Now, sometimes Chris, most times Chris is the one who's kind of getting beaten and downtrodden, but other times it's Chris in the driver's seat, pointing the finger at companies like Hasbro or Sega and trying to put them in their place to get what he wants. But it turns out what he wanted this month is to get a ticket to a convention. Now, the convention in question is called BABScon, and it's something that I've heard about many times while hearing about Chris Chan lore over the years, but I never knew exactly what it was for. So I looked it up, and it's a Bay Area brony spectacular. I should have known. I absolutely should have known that this was some pony thing, but knowing how greatly Chris detests the new pony season, I can't imagine he'd want to go to this. I'd imagine it'd be a really big part of the convention. Maybe he'd find some like-minded people who don't like the new pony season, but it just seems like this whole convention would be something that he would hate. Nonetheless, he wanted to go. Now, this is on the other side of the country, Chris lives in Virginia, this is in San Francisco. It would have been one of those rare times where Chris got on a plane. But this is all just speculation because he did not attend this convention. And we'll get to why that is in just a minute here. But something that kind of dawned on me was that Chris has been really trying to get to this convention for about 4 years now. Because despite me not knowing what this convention was about, I looked at the date and I realized, oh, March 31st. Wasn't this the same one that got canceled like 4 years ago when COVID happened and Chris was making a big stink about it back then? He wanted them to basically, keep everything locked down with the exception of things like BABScon and other related events that Chris would have liked. Oh, and not to mention the flights to and from those conventions or whatever it is. That's what Chris really wanted to happen. It was more of his, I'm gonna make a big stink out of me not being able to go do something I want to do, despite everyone else not being able to do it. The fact that I can't, now that's a travesty, ladies and gentlemen. So all these years later, he was finally willing to make the trek. He was going to get out there and he was going to enjoy some pony shit. And so he sent an email to apparently one of the people on the chair board over there. He wanted to see how he could get a ticket. He probably was just emailing. If we're being honest here, I think there's only one correspondence here before they tell Chris what the real deal is and how it's going to go. But I'd imagine Chris emailed them to try to maybe get hey, it is me, God, so maybe I can get a discount or something. That's just speculation on my part, but knowing Chris, I'd imagine he would have taken the conversation in that type of direction had the email correspondence gone the way that he wanted it to. And if that was the case, this video probably wouldn't exist right now. So with that being said, let's take a look at these leaked emails, and we gotta start with the BABScon people because that's where this whole thing starts. Well, it doesn't necessarily start there, but I couldn't find Chris's initial email that he sent to them, so we'll start from here, and you guys can fill in the blanks. It's pretty easy too. So the person gets in contact with Chris and says, "Hi Christine, thank you for your interest in attending BABScon 2024. We are sorry, but we are unable to accommodate you at our convention due to potential violations of our code of conduct." So, right there, potential violations. They know Chris's track record, right? They know that despite him being out of jail, despite the charges being dropped, they are just not trying to take the risk on having someone like Chris there. And when I say someone like Chris, I mean someone who's prone to basically drop down into a ball in the middle of the convention floor because they got called out for being too touchy with people, making an entire scene and spectacle with just people around who might not even have any idea who Chris is. Here's the thing though. I've never been to a pony convention. Maybe there's a lot of people like Chris there who are freaking out about different different pony seasons coming and going. I highly doubt it, but I'll tell you this much. I feel like it's impossible to be an organizer of an event like this that caters to fans of My Little Pony and really anything that Chris himself enjoys and you're not aware of who Chris is or the fact that he might want to come to this convention. But if they aren't aware, then you bet your ass there's going to be hundreds of people online pouring in emails and different things telling them, hey, this is a person who's about to attend your event, here's what he was in jail for, and here's his track record, and here's just another example of a place that's yeah, we're not having that. As such, you are persona non grata at BABScon 2024 and future BABScon events, and you will not be allowed to attend. To be explicit, this is a formal notification that you are banned from BABScon. So I'd imagine they say it this clearly for like anyone they ban, but for Chris, like they're making it crystal clear, like just so you know, do not take this any other way other than the fact that you are just completely banned. Don't show up asking about it, you are just not welcome here. And as you'd imagine, Chris wrote a very, very long-winded response to this, which we'll get to in just a second here, but we have to finish reading this particular email. We identified and have voided the 2 Canterlot pony badges purchased under your redacted email address. As an act of good faith, we have issued a full refund of the purchase of those badges. Best regards, BABScon. So basically, they're doing what they have to be like, look, we're just going to give you your money back, just do not be here, and that's that. Now, the one interesting thing that they brought up there is that Chris bought 2 badges. And when I hear that, it just makes me think that Flutter was going to head out there with Chris, because Chris and Flutter have been doing basically everything together when it comes to conventions and all that. No one else from the Praetor, and we don't even know if Flutter themselves is in the Praetor, but no one else in that group is really seen with Chris publicly anymore, the exception being Flutter, and that's because people think that they're in some type of relationship. I brought up in my last video that Chris was on stream talking about the friend zone and how he doesn't need any bitches, and it made it seem like it was like, okay, so maybe this isn't a relationship and they're just pretty good friends, and that's the idea that I've been working off of. This Flutter person is not someone who lives near Chris and someone he can just go hang out with. They only seem to show up when Chris is sighted at like an airport or something. So she's flying in from some location, Chris is meeting up with her, and they go and do these events. This was probably another one they were going to go meet up and do together. This woman is probably just someone who feels bad for Chris, is someone who maybe has the same interests in him, or they're just a Praetor plant. Who knows? But the point I was trying to make is that Flutter was with Chris at the last convention that he went to, where he also got kicked out of. So it's not hard to imagine that this is who the second badge was purchased for. But now poor Chris isn't going to get to see his friend, isn't going to get to go travel across the country on this magical pony adventure. He has to sit at home, and ladies and gentlemen, he's not too happy about it. So let's go ahead and read Chris's response. I see. That is a major shame indeed. But allow me to ask, why is it that you all feel and see me as quote-unquote persona non grata? I have committed no crime. Alright. And any allegations, I like how he spells allegations, kind of like alligator, were false and false witnessed. I may have a reputation, but part of that was based upon a portion of individuals who have long misunderstood me, and based on content that was blackmailed or coerced from me by deceptions or those respective fakers and haters. So he's basically saying, yeah, I did a bunch of bullshit, but the trolls tricked me into it. They're really the bad guys, not me. Like, I'm some poor innocent victim here. He says he's committed no crimes, but again, he was in jail for 2 years. They don't just keep you in jail for 2 years to rot if they don't have anything on you. And I get it, there have been many cases where people have been falsely imprisoned, but I bet you, ladies and gentlemen, that in none of those cases, there was a phone call recorded beforehand with the person going into just complete vivid detail of how they committed the crime and how much they enjoyed committing it. You know, that's not something that usually happens. But I do pose you this question, ladies and gentlemen. It's something I've been thinking about since I've covered this situation for about 2.5 years now. Just let's put things into a different bubble. What if Chris really was lying about all this to Bella? You know, he was sitting there trying to sound cool, making it sound like, yeah, I got a girlfriend. Yeah, I've had sex plenty of times. And like the whole time he was just using Barb as like, you know, a disgusting front, but as something that he used to kind of sound cool, and he didn't think it would go this far, right? Like obviously, I'll tell you what, I'm in the camp that I truly do believe that he did stuff with his mother. No one goes into that much, like just graphic detail about it. if it's not something they did and or are interested in doing. But like, I've seen the Chris jail letters where he said, like, yeah, I did it, but it was all good, it was all soul bonding. So I want to throw that out there because there is always that theory. Chris is a notorious liar at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. However, him being in jail for like 2 years while this whole situation was playing out makes me think that there was a lot more on this that the police maybe knew that we didn't. A lot of speculation here on my part, but when it's something I've talked about for so long and it's a situation that we still don't know all the facts about, I am kind of like interested as to what really did happen here. As I said, I have my opinions, but I'm curious to know your guys' in the comments below. But as you can see in what Chris said right there, he's trying to pin the blame on other people, saying that there's a portion of individuals who have blackmailed him and have misunderstood him over the years. It's basically just the way he gets around saying that the trolls have been messing with him. Even if the trolls are messing with him and criticizing him for justified reasons, like the thing that happened with him and Barb, well, they're just a bunch of misunderstood fools. They do not understand Chris and what he is. He said it years ago to, I think, Casey. He hates mislabelings. He doesn't want to be mislabeled. And despite doing things that would label you as a certain type of person, if he doesn't want to be the thing that he is, like, he's basically taken the sticker stamper or whatever it's called himself, put the label across his chest, but because he doesn't like what it says, nobody should be able to call him that. He believes that despite his actions, he should be looked at as the perfect being that he himself thinks he is. Which then leads us to, I am a proper member of the LGBTQIA+, identifying as a bisexual trans woman. Again, this is the same person who was calling himself Jesus Christ himself in the jail letters. If you wonder why I still say himself, it's because of that reason alone. Chris flip-flops with these quite a lot. And my mental decline of high-functioning autism has been a focus of some that makes them see me as vulnerable, yet I am not. I have made my mistakes in the past from those manipulations, but I have learned, and I have long soul-searched and discovered myself. And I even have more authentic friends now, who appreciate and know me better than any of the online toxic ones could ever. And so he's basically saying, hey, these randoms I found online, they understand me better than you people at BABScon ever could. I'd imagine maybe he's being buddy trolled again. Who knows, though? It's probably just, again, Prater people who are kissing his ass because they know that he brings in a pretty good chunk of change off of Sonichu medallions now. But let's go to the beginning of what he said there, because he's trying to use what he identifies as a way of saying, like, hey, you're discriminating against me. I know he's not outright saying it. He's not outright saying this is discrimination. But by starting an entire paragraph by saying, I am a member of the LGBT, and you know what you're doing there. You know what you're doing. And I don't think Chris is going to use it in like a nefarious way, but it's just another thing that he uses as a defense mechanism to be like, oh, well, the trolls are the reason I can't go. And, oh, well, it's because I'm a member of the LGBT community and you're marginalizing me. And you're also doing that for my high-functioning autism. When really, they just don't want to deal with Chris's usual shenanigans at their event. And they have the right to feel that way and bar Chris from coming to it. I mean, it's as simple as that. Chris may not agree with it, and he clearly doesn't hear because he's trying to find any way he can to cope with it. I mean, look at this. Who writes in a letter of response to them being banned from a convention? Yeah, well, I got a bunch of new friends now, and it's really helping me with all the toxic internet trolls going after me. Like, he just wants these people to feel bad for him and maybe go, all right, Chris, you know what? You're not that bad of a guy. You get in here, Chris, and we'll even pay for it for you. That's what he is praying is going to happen here. But sadly, it is all for naught. I was looking for an enjoyable, peaceful weekend with my friend that would have been more than very good and beneficial. But no, you dare deny us this simple pleasure as Pegasisters of the Brody community. I'm sorry, but the way he worded that just makes me think this is another Megan Schroeder situation where he was hoping like, hey, Maybe we go out to this convention together, we're staying in the same hotel room, and one night we're sitting down, we're playing some Nintendo Switch. Back when it was Megan, he was talking GameCube talk. God, how time has changed, ladies and gentlemen. Or maybe it was his PSP, I'm sorry, but still, long time ago. And what Chris thinks is that maybe they were going to go out here and things were going to really work out. They were going to hit it off. Maybe he'd really find that boyfriend-free girl he's been looking for. And these fuckers at the convention and these trolls are putting a stop to that. And the way he words it, it's like it's some grand thing, like, you dare deny us the simple pleasure as a Pegasister. Like, he's hurt by this. It's clear, like, obviously this is something that he really looks forward to. And I understand his disappointment with the situation. He loves the pony stuff. This is the community of people that he wants to be in. When we talk about it all the time, but the people who voice the ponies in these shows and the people who are like bigger YouTubers covering the pony stuff, they now just have to deal with Chris thinking that he's one of them. He thinks he deserves like a one-way ticket into any community they're in, should have access to talk to them whenever he wants. Why? Because he looks up to these people, and he thinks that he's a famous, well-known person too. And despite that kind of being true, it's not for the same reason these pony people are. Despite me not being a fan of what they do have fans, Chris being one of them. But Chris also thinks that he's on the same level as them. So when you ban him from an event like this, you're taking away something to him that's like, wow, like, this was everything to him. And it basically just ramps it up to an entirely different level because Chris really thought that like he was going to go there, just be giving high fives to all of his favorite, like Tara Strong and all that. The people who, she voices a pony, right? I know that at least from the Chris Chan lore. So he's pissed. As you can see, he is pissed here. And, it's classic Chris to take it in a direction that it does not need to go in. But that's what he does right here when he says, well, all I can say is you were in the wrong for letting others, demons, devils, and those of the toxic irredeemable manipulate you into not allowing someone as light-powered, good, and righteous as I to be amongst you. Like, look at this. He's kissing his own ass, being like, oh, all those people suck so hard, but me, I am just so ungodly awesome. And speaking of that, I'm God. Like, what do you mean? How are you going to shut out God from your pony convention? Everybody is welcome in God's house. And now when Chris is being told that he's not welcomed into a house that he desperately wants to get into, he's pissed. He's pissed. Look at the way he's responding to this. Instead of being an adult and being like, well, that's a shame that you guys came to that decision. Well, thank you for letting me know. That's really all you can do. Chris is like, you are a toxic, listening to demons and the devil and holy shit. Like, no wonder they banned you. And then, of course, he has to go on to say this. And while I don't think it's a threat, it's definitely meant to sound threatening. I am disappointed, and karma will swiftly follow you and all who attend your convention this very month and this very year. So, like, he's not saying he's going to do anything. Karma's going to be the one to do it. It's what he's always done with, like, I'll get you in your dreams, because he can't do anything in real life, so he's got to rely on, like, these omnipotent forces and beings to do the work for him. And that's what he's saying here, Basically now he's saying that people who go to the convention too, though, karma is going to come for you. Because he's been ousted and been ostracized and he's not allowed to go. Now anyone who goes, you're the fucking problem, ladies and gentlemen. You better shape up and stay away from this convention. I'm very much connected with the metaphysical and everything. I wish you would open your minds, souls, auras, and hearts for the light-powered good, of which is obvious you all need further authentic meditations and enlightenment. Now he's just ridiculing them, being like, oh, can't believe I'm so above you people, you're so below me. You need to just work on yourself, because I, Jesus Christ Chan, Weston Chandler, whatever he's being called now, I'm perfect. And you guys are the ones who have the problem. That's basically the idea he's trying to get across here. For now, until after the modern day Babylon falls, I bid you good day. Be safe and well, Mrs. Jesus Christine Weston Chandler Sonichu Prime, your friendly CPU goddess Blue Heart and Avatar. Sent from the AOL app for iOS. AOL? What? I just realized that. Like, holy shit, Chris is like still 15 years behind. But he says be safe and well, I bid you a good day. It's so passive aggressive. He wrote this entire email with his nose up in the air, like, these people just don't appreciate my brilliance. And it's because he lives in Fantasyland. Chris knows how sad his life is. Deep down, he's really aware that he is just a lost cause. I truly believe that. But he has this thing in his mind that lets him drift off to a place, and that place is Quickville, where he's God, and he runs shit the way he hoped it would be in real life, and sadly it's not. And he runs off to this fantasy land every time he wants to get away from the troubles and the hardships of the real world. And that comes around pretty often for Chris. And that's basically what he's doing here. He's trying to make them believe in something that's not true. That Chris is some like light-powered being that they're really messing up by not allowing him at their event, when really it's just this guy who will probably be a nuisance, and it's for the best that you don't allow him there. But Chris wants to make it this grandiose thing and how he's the Lord and Savior, because in his mind, everything involving his life is that grandiose and that important, when really it was just, this was a convention doing what was best for their business, and I can't blame him for that. But Chris sure as hell can, ladies and gentlemen. So it'll be interesting to see what Chris goes and does from here. I imagine him and Flutter will be meeting up soon, and it's, like I said, it's Chris. He's going to stream every now and again. The streams are probably going to be just absolute trash fires, with him responding to comments, not understanding most of them, and the ones that he does understand, he's going to get very offended by. It's a classic cycle with Chris, and all the locals go through it. So if anything else happens, I'll be sure to let you know. But until the next time, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see y'all in the next one. Take care.